All right, we're here with the always wonderful Patrick Seitz, who's coming off a pretty busy year. Most recently is the titles that I can think of that you've done are Attack on Titan and the new Sailor Moon dub.
Yes.
Yeah. So let's see. For the new Sailor Moon dub, did you watch the original cartoon when it aired during the 90s?
I did not. Actually, back when Sailor Moon was originally airing in the U.S., it was still prior to my knowledge of anime.
Okay.
I love it now, but I really had no exposure to it prior to when I started working on it early 2000s. So,
okay, cool.
I mean, I knew it was a thing. I know it's an institution, a monolith, as it were. But I had not seen the original stuff.
And not until you started working on it, or did you just like come to it late?
I mean, I still haven't. I've seen little bits and pieces of the original. I figure working on the stuff now, there's probably not a lot of advantage to me going in and hearing someone else's English dub.
Sure.
You know what I mean?
Yep.
And I mean, I don't just like to be surprised. I mean, some shows I want to go in and I want to know everything before it happens, but that's usually more on like the directing and writing side of things. For something like this where I'm, just going in and voicing one particular dude, I'd rather be surprised.
Cool.
So far, it's just been me petting Seitz' hair and telling him he's pretty and to stop whining. So.
So you haven't finished dubbing it yet?
No.
Wow.
I think I'm only through maybe the early to mid 30s.
Oh wow.
I haven't sort of come into the playing field yet.
Okay, gotcha. So let's see, mid 30s. So you're Kunzite then, right?
Yes.
Okay. So then I guess you weren't familiar with like the various Zoisite kind of shuffling around that they did. In the original Japanese, Zoisite is a man. When they brought it over here, they made Zoisite a woman.
I did know about that.
Yeah. It was the 90s, and it wasn't very progressive yet. So I know that for this dub, it's sticking true to the original. So I'm guessing it's just kind of staying in that whole kind of ambiguous, they're both men thing again. Or
it's not so ambiguous. I mean,
it's not okay.
I mean, I have never had any platonic male friendships of that sort, so...
Yeah, that's a good point.
Not that I'm the standard by which,
Yeah.
Sexual love is measured, but sentences I never thought I'd say. No, they're clearly into each other.
Well, sure, yeah. Yeah, it's been a while since I saw the original Japanese, so I'm a little behind on that. But let's see, did you read like any of the manga when they brought it back over here?
I did not.
So
I
really
generally don't read manga only because, my bookshelf's already hate me enough as it is, and I find myself, how to say it? I feel like when I'm reading something that's text only, I get more out of it. Visually, I like the visuals, but I almost feel like they're wasted on me because I'm in such a hurry to get to the words that it's just a medium where I'm not really sort of, sucking the marrow out of it the way I could.
Sure. So you really kind of, it's almost like a voice actor approach to it.
It's easier. That said, there have been a couple things. I want to get into 20th Century Boys, and I read Pluto, which I liked a lot. And I'm sure that had I not worked on Monster, I'd probably have the manga for Monster. But I figure with the show being so close to the manga anyway, it's kind of overkill. And again, my bookshelves aren't getting any lighter.
Yeah, that's the problem everybody has. I just moved and I managed to fit all my books into one bookshelf. It was I don't know how I did it, but I made it work somehow. There are, books stacked on top of books and wedged into others, but I got them into one shelf.
Nice.
I know, that was a feat. I was proud of myself.
I can believe that.
So, let's see, speaking of kind of going into things blind, for Attack on Titan, did you watch any of the simulcasts before the dub was announced? Did you go into that one blind too?
I watched, I think I watched through like episode 8 or 9. I still haven't watched all of it. I was part of an Attack on Titan panel couple of weeks back at another con, and about 20 minutes in, I excused myself. Like, I really don't want to get spoiler bombed, but I don't want to stop you guys from asking the questions that you want to ask, so adios.
Really?
And that worked out. People were good. They didn't spoiler bomb me, but then as soon as I left, apparently the questions from later in the series came rolling out.
Oh, yeah.
I saw through 8 or 9, and then at that point I thought to myself, you know what, I'm going to want to see this when it's dubbed. So rather than take the time, watch the whole thing now, I'm just going to put the kibosh on it, do something else in my massive backlog of media, and then I'll return to it later once it's been dubbed. So
when you were cast as Sadies, did you know anything about him prior to being cast?
I'd seen his stuff. I mean, with him being early enough in the series.
Okay, cool. So
I knew what he was about. Yeah.
Did you get to improv any of your drill, any of your muster stuff?
I don't think I did, or if I did, I don't think it's what we ultimately went with that much yelling. I figured I'm going to go with what someone has already taken the time to figure out is going to work with the flap.
That's a good idea.
For characters that have more of an inside voice,
you can go off the rails a little more.
A little bit more, yeah. For something like that, I thought, every time I yell, I've only got so many yells left, so I might as well use them
judiciously.
Judiciously, yes, especially for him. Yeah.
Was it as fun as it sounds?
It was pretty fun.
I was gonna say, every time when I got to I think it was episode 3 is the one where his first big episode. Yeah. When I wrote the review for that, I opened it with, any episode that starts with Patrick Seitz yelling is going to be a good episode.
It's getting to be a thing. I've noticed these last couple of years, me with yelling people has gotten to be kind of a niche.
Because you're so good at it.
I like it. I mean, sometimes at the end of the session, I'm like, okay, I'm going to go home and not talk for the rest of the day. But I'm not going to be the 15-year-old boy who saves the world, or the princess high squeaky girl. So any voice print I can fall into and sort of take that as my territory, I will gladly take.
Sure, yeah. And especially, because that's all he does, and it's just so much. Every single line made me laugh, even if it wasn't supposed to. It's like, this is just amazing.
You know what I didn't realize, actually, thinking about it? I didn't realize when I was watching the simulcast that the guy in the beginning who comes back with the horribly mangled Survey Corps group was him.
Well, because
I didn't realize
he had a full head of hair at that point.
But still looked like he slept.
A couple years later, that's just gone.
Yeah, he's taken a turn for the hardcore.
Well, yeah, after you've been on that many expeditions, I definitely support that.
I hope he comes back. I don't know if he's going to, but I would certainly like it if things got dire enough at some point that he's like, son of a bitch, straps on his gear and, goes swinging back out there again. I don't know if it will. Of course, that's every actor being like, I'd like to be in it more. But, even if it weren't me playing the character, that just seems like a moment of badassery that I could respect.
Oh, yeah. Really, everyone in the Survey Corps is a badass, and he's the head of, he trains everybody before they filter out into the different groups, so... he pretty much has to be a badass. But yeah, no matter what the line was, because it's obvious how much fun you're having with it. I just can't help but laugh, especially the exchanges between you and Sasha.
Yeah. We're in that potato.
Yes.
I like when she says she's going to give me half, and then she breaks up with a third.
The heel of it.
I'm like, girl, I can do math. Basic math. That much math. I know what half looks like.
Yeah, and that's not half. Well, let's see. Speaking of characters, to go from one opposite to the other, I always come back to Paradise Kiss because I think that was the first role that I heard you in. So that one kind of stuck.
You must have been so confused if that's the first thing you heard me in, because that is not what I do typically.
Well, I've since come to figure that's very much the outlier in your career.
Why do they keep having him be screamy bad guys? He's supposed to be like metrosexual teen love interests. I'm so confused by their casting choices.
Yeah, but it works. You sounded just like the guy in the Japanese. It really just sounded like they translated him into English. But for something like that, which is so far out of your wheelhouse, was that inherently more difficult to do than a lot of like the big boisterous?
Yes.
Really.
Yes. When they told me I'd gotten that part, I thought everybody else must be out of town or sick. There must be laryngitis going around or something, because that wasn't ever what I was called upon to do. And even going into record, and also that was early enough on that I didn't have nearly as many titles under my belt as I do now. So I think going out of my comfort zone then especially was difficult, because I would do the takes and Stephanie Shea, who was directing it, would get on the talkback mic and just be like, too nice. You still sound too nice. And so at one point I said one of the lines was like, blah, 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 bitch, just to be funny. And she's like, that's it. That was right. That had the tone. So what I would do then, whenever I started, deviating from the character, or if I came back to record the next volume and it had been a while to get me back into that mindset, I would just read the line as written, have enough of a hitch at the end that they can cut it off, and then follow it up with blah, 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 bitch. and that locked me in. Nice. I did it in jest, but it worked. Yeah. So we ran with it. Whatever it takes to keep someone in character.
If it works, just roll with it.
Yeah.
And it's a short series, but you're in every episode. I think it's only like 12 episodes. Is there any significant difference in recording like a role that's only like in a few episodes, but it's like a kind of a long runner, versus a character that's in a short series, but you're in the whole thing? Is there any does it feel different? Is there a different kind of approach to it or anything?
For me, I think it's more the amount of time in which the material gets recorded that's going to dictate how it feels, regardless of whether it's a bunch that just gets squeezed into a very short amount of time, or you're in it just here and there, but it's also done pretty compact. Yeah. I feel like that's something that's changed over the years. I mean, back in the day, we would get our 4 episodes of whatever it was from Japan, and we were lucky to even have that. And wow. We'd go begging for the next 4 later on, but for then, we've got these 4, we'll adapt these 4, we'll direct these 4, we'll get these 4 in the can, and maybe then they'll send us more. Wow. Whereas now, I think it's just a lot easier to get material. Still not always easy, but I think now we're in a position where when you go to work on a show, the whole thing can already be written. Yeah. Or at least the first half. Or
they've licensed the whole thing. So at least you'll finish the series.
It's not as piecemeal, which for me, if I'm going down to Funimation to work on something, that's really useful, because it means I can go and work on a full day of something. Not that I won't be tired of it that day, but it's not, do 2 hours here and 2 hours there, flying back and forth for the rest of your natural life. It's go in, do it, get it done, and you're done. And that's sort of, I think, the expectation anyway, because when I started working there years ago, I thought, oh man, all these guys, like the old guard, all came up doing Dragon Ball. So these guys are like vocal Vikings. Yeah. They think nothing of screaming 10 hours a day nonstop. I got to be able to hang,
And then you find out the reality of it.
And you're like, I am screaming 10 hours a day sometimes.
Well, yeah, but I should hope that's not the norm.
Well, no,
otherwise you just wouldn't have a voice.
No, and I say it in jest. I mean,
well, sure.
Everyone I work with is very good about okay, here's how many days you're going. You're doing long days. If we hit stuff that's crazy, stupid screaming, we'll save it for the end of the day. Yeah. I mean, that's usually how they do it. There's no point doing screaming stuff on the top of a session and then being all like, for the rest of it. I mean, right now I'm doing Kill I Kill. Yeah. Gamagoori, he screams. So we'll do, not that he's really quiet ever, but we'll do the sort of the mid-range screamy stuff. And if there was a scream he had in a flashback, some kid, gets thrown off a roof and he thinks the kid is just like on the ground below, and he screams for 10 seconds straight, just screams the word no. And then the kid bounces up because there was a trampoline. He's all like, hey? But that sort of thing, that scream we definitely saved for the end of the session, because, no.
With as few takes as possible so you don't just blow your voice out. Yeah. Do you do anything, what do you do to take care of your voice to keep it from cutting out on you like that?
Part of it is just judicious scheduling. I mean, for something like Gamagoori, I only do 2 hours of it instead of a 4 hour. Okay. Because 4 hours usually standard. You know, take whatever you have and break it into 4-hour chunks. And if you have less than 4, you do a 3 or a 2. But for him, I said right off the bat, like, let's just keep that to 2s. And they were like, yeah, of course. We're not trying to murder you. So stuff like that. I drink a lot of tea in the session, after the session. Got a couple of random, like, Chinese secret, throat syrups and whatnot.
I'm going to say the throat coat stuff.
Throat coat. There's a thing called Ninjam that's marvelous and magical. You can only find it in, like, Chinatown and Amazon. Mostly just stuff like that. I mean, the trouble with yelling is I've trained my voice. I know how to support diaphragmatically, but people want it to sound real. Yeah. Like, if you're getting beat up, you can't just be like, you hit me, you know. No, that's not going to fly. So our voices are still going to blow out eventually. Yeah. It's just that since we know what we're doing with them, we have a sort of a longer fuse before everything goes sideways. Okay. So a lot of it's just scheduling, taking care of it, and then I just will go home and not talk. Yeah. And that's handy. Yeah, just conservation. Yeah, yeah. And for something especially like Titan, where not only your character's a little more controlled screaming, since you do it for a living, the guy does. But there's so much more. There's so many. Almost everything else in Titan is not. And I know that they purposely approached it that way so that it would have that raw, visceral sound to it. And as an audience member, I like hearing that because it sounds so real. But I do have to wonder, what kind of impact that has on the actors after doing I don't know how many takes for how many sessions, because so much of Titan is just screaming. So much of it is just wall-to-wall screaming. I'm pretty sure every one of Bryce's sessions, like the last 20 minutes, was probably dedicated to screaming. I would imagine. He easily has the lion's share of those. It's the screaming I've heard from him, I know, is only the tip of the iceberg. The stuff I've heard from Josh Greeley as Armin, it's just... He's got some good ones. Heartbreaking and wonderful. And again, it wouldn't, if it was just someone going like, no... Oh yeah, Aaron! No, that wouldn't. Well, sure, nobody would buy that. Yeah, but it's when you have something that's worth yelling for. I mean, you're going to go and do it; it's the job. But but when the scene is just that good, it makes it worthwhile, and you're willing to go there. Like if I'm going in on a game project and I'm just screaming the word grenade until I run out of voice, I'm getting paid and it's work. Don't get me wrong, but I'm not going to go home and be like, when I screamed grenade that 50th time, that nourished me as a performer. Whereas I'm sure by the end of that particular session, I'm sure it really was like, wow, I'm thrashed, I can't talk. But dude, how cool was that? I'm guessing you're talking about like episode 5. Oh yeah. Yeah, yep. Aaron, no! But it's such a, it was so good. That was the... I could just imagine, it's like, he must have been hurting after that, but it was so good. Yeah. And, same with, when Sadies comes back from that mission with, give her what's left of her son. Like, here you go, here's your son's arm, that's all we have. Moses was disarmed. Yeah. Have you seen any of, like, the fan parodies they've done with... I have not, but I imagine that joke was made. Well, they did like an OVA episode of that, and they present her with the son's arm, and Sadies is just not letting it go. She just comes up and is like, "I am going to beat you to death with my son's severed arm." It's so dark, but it works so great. Oh, that arm. Yeah. It's the moment in the series when I first said, I don't know if I want to keep up with this. Because everyone was like, no, it's really good, but it's really gory. You might not. It was like, I don't know. It's animation, and I'm going to get to the end of the episode, and it's like, I don't know if I want to do this anymore. But they let you know early on what you're in for. I mean... Well, yeah, that's true. And, fortunately, not everybody gets their spine snapped in half and swallowed by a titan every episode, thank God. Not every episode. Most episodes, but not all of them. I hope there's a Hot Springs episode. Don't ruin it for me if there is. One can only hope. Yeah, we're all holding out for a beach episode. So let's see. Let's see if we can go into video game territory for a little while.
you've done a lot of BlazBlue stuff. How do you feel about the new one that's coming out? What's it?
Guilty Gear.
Oh, the Guilty Gear. I'm sorry, the new Guilty Gear that's coming out. Yeah.
I mean, I really don't have such a horrible answer on the Guilty Gear side of things. I really don't have an opinion one way or the other. I mean, I haven't played any of them. I know they're sort of spiritual brethren, as it were.
Sure. Yeah.
Yeah, I don't have.
Are you interested in coming back for that if they bring it over here, if they dub it?
Are we talking Guilty Gear or BlazBlue?
Guilty Gear.
Well, I mean, I haven't done any Guilty Gear stuff.
My source lied to me. Okay.
The internet lies a lot. The internet's still sure I'm Rengar in League of Legends. Every convention, I'm like, no, I'm actually not. They're like, but the internet. I'm like, the internet lies. I've told the internet it's lying. It's like, what do you know? I'm like, I'm me.
They question you on your own cred.
Basically, yeah.
Wow.
Yeah.
That's gutsy.
Yeah. But sometimes they're like, you know what? I waited in your line. I've got this artwork of Rengar. I want to sign it anyway. I'm like, yeah. I mean, just as long as you know it's not me and I'm not like pulling one over on you, sure. Yeah. It's
like, hey, you got paper. I'll write on it.
You stood in line. You should come out of this with something. And I will admit, I've listened to it. The dude sounds like me, but I think the dude sounds like me because they put an effect on it in post.
Really?
Yeah, I mean, it sounds like it's been lowered, and where they lowered it to just naturally sounds like my vocal type. But there's a Seitz button or something. I mean, I can understand why people would think that. But when I tell them for the 800th time, I swear it's not me, and they're like, "But I did the internet." I'm like, "No, the internet is filled with people that are so sure," and then you prove them wrong. And they're like, "Well, I really didn't know. You were so sure 2 minutes ago." Come on, internet dude, fly right.
So I so hate to ask this. Is there a new BlazBlue coming out? Like, is there? Did Joe get those confused?
I think he did.
He must have. He's gonna be hearing from me after this.
I mean, I would hope there would be one eventually, because I think I left it pretty cliffhangery at the end of Chrono Phantasma. So
yeah.
If not, there's going to be a lot of fans who are like, "Come on!"
Yeah, but it happens all the time, though.
Oh yeah.
I mean, see, we're 3/4 of the way through rebuild of Ava, and nobody has any clue how it's going to wrap up. It happens so often.
Hopefully they will. I have faith. I have faith they will take this insanely intricate storyline they have crafted and bring it to a solid conclusion.
Let's see. Do you have anything in the works that you can talk about right now?
Oh, that's always the.
I know, that's always the $64 question.
What can it talk about? I would mention Sailor Moon, but we already talked about that.
That's true. Are you doing? Are you just doing Kunzai? Are you doing any ADR for them? Background stuff.
I mean, I went and did a little bit of incidentals during my Kunzai session just because we wrapped up early and there was other random dude.
Yeah.
But I think for the recurring characters, they're going to keep that to a minimum just because, you don't want to hear the same voice. Be like, it's him again. There's
a lot of characters in Sailor Moon, though. I mean, that original run was 200 episodes.
Good Lord.
Yeah, so I would bet money we're going to hear from you in some other iteration of that because it's just so the depth and breadth of the original Sailor Moon is just so big. I
mean, that's sort of been my lot in life with the other long running stuff from Studiopolis, Bleach.
Yeah.
And Naruto go into a lot of incidental stuff. So probably, I mean, it's they want to go with who they know and who they know they're going to be able to get it done with. So
sure.
So it's easy to be like, hey, got these couple of guys, nothing complex, like falling off a log. Get it done, you're on your way.
Yep.